The story begins at a moment when the Oak Island team had already spent many long days digging, scanning, and studying the strange metal structure hidden deep beneath the ground. Everyone on the site knew they were getting closer to something unusual, but no one expected what would happen next. The air was already tense when Rick Lagina walked toward the latest scan report. His steps were slow, almost as if he already sensed something important was waiting for him. The rest of the crew stood close, watching him read the new data. Rick's eyes moved across the screen, and his face slowly began to change. It was not excitement alone. It was a mix of shock, fear, and disbelief. Rick finally looked up and said the words that froze everyone around him. "We've reached something that was never meant to be opened." The whole team went silent. Even the sound of drilling stopped as the workers paused to understand what Rick had just said. No one knew what he had seen on the scan, but everyone felt that whatever was below the ground was far bigger than anything they had found before. Rick explained that the underground chamber they had discovered was not a natural space. The walls were smooth, sharp, and shaped with perfect angles. The metal surface had no signs of natural erosion. Instead, it looked like something made with purpose, skill, and knowledge far ahead of its time. Dr. Spooner stepped forward and ran his hand across one of the extracted metal samples. The piece was cold, smooth, and almost perfectly shaped. He said the one thing that made everyone's heart beat faster. "This is not natural. Someone built this." Emma, who had been studying the scan data, added that the design matched medieval Templar vaults that were known for precision. She explained that the AI scan had detected 90-degree corners, equal wall thickness, and a symmetrical layout. None of these things were found in natural underground formations. Nature never creates perfect shapes like this. The only groups known for this kind of underground work were ancient secret orders, and one of the most famous among them was the Templar Order. Then something even more shocking happened. When the team ran the thermal scan behind the metallic door, the temperature was extremely low. The chamber behind the door was 11 degrees colder than the rest of the soil. This kind of temperature difference was not normal at all. Dr. Spooner said that such cold air could mean something important. It meant the chamber had been sealed for hundreds of years, maybe even longer, and no air had entered or escaped since then. Whatever was inside was preserved in the same state in which it had been left centuries ago. The moment Rick touched the surface of the metallic door, a deep sound echoed through the soil. It was not a hollow thump. It was a strong, clear ring that vibrated for a full second before fading away. Everyone stepped back in surprise. Charles looked at Rick with wide eyes and said, "That's not a wall, that's a whole structure." The vibrations told them there was a large empty chamber behind the door, something big, something untouched, something ancient. Emma aimed the scanner again at the bottom of the door, and suddenly the readings shot up into the danger zone. She backed away, startled, and said, "Something moved behind there." The entire team froze. A movement behind a sealed door that had been untouched for centuries made no sense at all. Rick tried to calm everyone down, suggesting it might be a shift in air pressure, but Spooner shook his head and said it was not air pressure. It was a structural shift, something inside the vault adjusting or changing position. Right at that moment, two black SUVs rolled onto the site. They were unmarked, with dark windows, and drove slowly toward the dig area. Two officers stepped out, and from the way they walked, everyone could tell they were not normal inspectors. They carried an atmosphere of authority and seriousness. The first thing they did was set up a restricted zone around the metallic structure. The crew was told to step back. Even the production team was told to move their cameras away. Rick approached the officers calmly and asked why they had come without warning. The officer only replied, "We need to verify what you're digging into." That one short line was enough to make every crew member uneasy. It sounded as if the government already knew what was below Oak Island, or at least feared something was hidden there.
Rick asked them again for details, but the officers avoided giving clear answers. Meanwhile, Emma noticed the officers kept looking directly at the metallic door, not at the ground or the equipment. It was as if they already knew where the main discovery was located. Suspicion grew even stronger when they quietly pulled Dr. Spooner aside and questioned him about the metal samples. Spooner's expression changed. He looked uncomfortable and confused. Later, the metal analysis returned from the lab, and the results shocked everyone even more. The metal was a special alloy of zinc and copper, with perfect ratios and unusual density. This kind of metal could not be made with natural processes. It had to be engineered. But what made it even stranger was that the alloy matched Templar technology used between the 12th and 14th centuries. The Templars used this kind of metal only for secret vaults and sacred containers meant to protect important relics. Emma compared the percentages in the alloy and found they were almost identical to Templar vault structures in Europe. This discovery made the atmosphere even heavier. If the metallic door was part of a Templar vault, then whatever was inside could be something far more important than treasure. It could be relics, documents, or objects that had been hidden from history for centuries. Right after this discovery, the officers became even more strict. They began walking around the site, asking about the depth of the chamber. Rick reminded them that the dig was a private project, but the officers replied coldly, "Just making sure you're not accessing something classified." That comment stunned the entire crew. Something from the 12th century, hidden by the Templars, considered classified? It made no sense, yet it made everything more suspicious. Soon after, the crew discovered something even more shocking. When they compared old maps from the 1700s to the modern AI scan, they found an X mark that aligned perfectly with the metallic door's location. The old map showed 3 lines and an X near the shoreline, as if someone long ago had known exactly where the vault was hidden. A forgotten sketch found in an archive even showed a similar layout to the vault structure. A rectangular chamber with double-layered walls and a narrow passage in the center, matching the exact features of the newly scanned vault. The team performed an echo test using a steel rod. Rick tapped the metallic door gently. A long, clear ringing sound echoed back. Spooner said the tone came from a deep, hollow space behind the door. Emma tapped another area and heard a second echo from below. This meant that there was not just one chamber, but a deeper one beneath it. Charles said in a quiet voice, "That means a 2-layer vault." And that was exactly what medieval Templars were known for, a decoy chamber on top and the real vault hidden deeper below. The AI confirmed this, showing a second chamber around 22 feet below the first one. This lower chamber had thicker walls and a cross-shaped layout, another signature of Templar design. The crew stared at the screen in disbelief. This was not just a coincidence. This was engineering. Then, the water level in the pit suddenly dropped by 60%. Sensors confirmed it. Water had not drained into the ground. It had fallen into a hollow space. Spooner said something opened down there. This meant the second chamber might have shifted or broken open slightly after centuries of pressure. Rick said one line that the entire crew would never forget. "If this lower chamber opens, we're not just finding treasure, we're rewriting history." The crew stood around the monitors, barely breathing as they processed the sudden drop in water levels. It wasn't just unusual, it was impossible. Every dig on Oak Island had always fought against water rising, not disappearing. But this time, it vanished, as if something beneath the ground had swallowed it whole. Before anyone could speak, a deep rumble vibrated through the soil. Dust trickled from the edges of the excavation walls. A few crew members instinctively stepped back, their eyes fixed on the metallic structure below. Rick raised his hand, signaling everyone to stay calm, though even he looked unsettled. Emma's scanner beeped rapidly, the readings spiking in unpredictable patterns. "Pressure changes, rapid ones," she said, adjusting the device. "Something is shifting down there again."
Spooner leaned over the pit, listening to the faint but steady groans of metal expanding and contracting under stress. "That chamber, it's reacting," he said quietly. "It's been sealed for centuries. A sudden release of pressure could cause parts of it to realign." Before he could finish, a sound shot up from the depths, a slow, echoing scrape like stone dragging against metal. It wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. Every hair on Rick's arm stood on end. The officers in black froze, exchanged a quick look, and immediately reached for their radios. One of them muttered, "Stage 2 protocol," though no one on the team had any idea what that meant. Rick stepped closer to them, anger and concern rising in his voice. "Protocol for what?" he demanded. The officer didn't respond. Instead, he pointed 2 more men toward the pit, and they began unloading a strange case from the SUV, heavy, reinforced, and marked with warning symbols. Emma whispered, "Why would government agents need containment gear for an archaeological dig?" Spooner shook his head, his voice barely audible. "Unless they think there's something down there that isn't supposed to be disturbed?" Rick wasn't satisfied with silence. "You need to tell us why you're really here." This time, the lead officer looked directly at him. "You're about to reach a level that no private expedition is authorized to access," he said. "What lies below may not be purely historical." Confusion spread across the crew's faces. "Not purely historical?" Charles repeated, his voice cracking slightly. "What does that even mean?" Before the officer could elaborate, Emma let out a gasp. "Guys, look at this scanner!" Everyone turned to the scanner she was holding. A new signature had appeared. Not a chamber, not a wall, something else. A shape. Rectangular. Uniform. Positioned exactly in the center of the lower vault. "Is that a container?" Rick asked slowly. Emma nodded. "And whatever it's made of, the scanner can barely penetrate it." Spooner's eyes widened. "That means high-density metal, something engineered to shield its contents. A relic container, a Templar reliquary, a forbidden archive." Thoughts raced through everyone's mind, but no one dared to say it out loud. Then Emma's screen flickered again. A faint secondary signature appeared behind the container. Small, irregular, organic. Emma's voice trembled. "There's something else in there, something the scanner classifies as biological material." The officers reacted instantly. "Shut it down," the League One barked. "Shut everything down now." Workers backed away as the officers surged toward the pit, their boots thudding against the soil. One of them positioned himself between the team and the excavation. "No one goes near that vault," he ordered. "This dig is under federal review, effective immediately." Rick stepped forward, refusing to back down. "With all due respect, this is our site, our work. You can't just take over because of some blurry reading." The officer stared at him coldly. "This isn't about your dig, Mr. Lagina. It's about what the Templar Order may have sealed away, and why." The words landed like a hammer. The idea that a mystery buried for centuries, one powerful enough to draw government agents in black SUVs, was now just feet beneath their boots, hit everyone at once. But it wasn't fear that filled Rick's eyes. It was determination. "We came here to uncover the truth, and we're not stopping now." The ground rumbled again, louder this time. A sharp metallic crack echoed through the pit. The lower chamber was opening. The metallic crack echoed so sharply that even the officers stopped what they were doing. Dust spiraled upward from the ground, drifting in thin curtains through the bright work lights. Everyone instinctively looked down into the pit. A second crack split the air, deeper, heavier. The sound of ancient metal giving way after centuries of pressure. Emma's scanner went wild, throwing out bursts of red warnings. Spooner's voice trembled. "The lower chamber seal is breaking.
naturally or from the pressure difference? Rick leaned forward, gripping the railing of the observation platform. Or because something inside is forcing its way open. The officers exchanged another look, this time not with confidence, but with concern. The lead agent muttered into his radio urgently. "We have movement in the vault. Repeat, the lower vault is reacting." But the most chilling part was the next line. "Prepare for containment protocol." The crew glanced at one another. Containment? For a medieval vault? Emma swallowed hard, staring at her scanner as another reading flickered across the screen. The biological signature is more defined now. Rick turned sharply. Defined how? It's larger. The shape shifted. A cold silence strangled the air. Spooner shook his head.
Disbelief. That shouldn't be possible. Anything sealed in there for centuries would be fossilized. Or dust. Emma looked up slowly. Unless it was preserved. Completely. Rick's pulse hammered in his ears. Preserved by what? She hesitated before answering. By design. The ground rumbled again, this time with a low, resonant boom from deep below, like a massive lock sliding out of place. A faint vibration rolled under their feet, steady, unnatural, rhythmic. "Is that knocking?" Charles whispered, horrified. The sound came again, 3 soft thuds in perfect sequence. Boom, boom, boom. Rick froze. "That's impossible." But Spooner, pale and shaking, whispered the words no one wanted to hear. "It's a coded sequence, like a signal." Before anyone could react, a cold stream of air hissed out from the depth of the pit. Not just cool, freezing. A visible plume of white vapor rose upward, spilling over the edges like fog creeping from an open tomb. Emma backed away. Temperature just dropped to -6 degrees. The officers instantly pulled masks from their gear. One shouted, "Everyone step back! Clear the area!" Workers scrambled away. The camera crew dropped their equipment. Even the skeptical members of the team moved behind the line of vehicles. But Rick didn't move. He stood at the edge of the pit, staring into the swirling frost, because he saw something. A faint, pulsating glow deep below, far beneath the first chamber. Something illuminating the frost from within, like a heartbeat made of light. Emma gasped as her scanner displayed a new shape, sharp, geometric, unmistakable. "It's a cross," she whispered. "A Templar cross." But the center of it was glowing. The officers reacted instantly. "Shut it down," the lead one yelled. "Seal the pit, now!" 2 men rushed to unload steel plates from the SUV, clearly prepared for this scenario. They moved towards the pit, ready to cover it. Rick stepped forward. "Stop! You can't seal it! We're witnessing history!" The lead officer shouted back, his voice panicked, not commanding. "You don't understand. This isn't just a vault, it's a containment structure. The Templars didn't store treasure here, they locked something away." The ground shook violently. The glowing cross grew brighter. A long, slow, metallic screech rose from the depths. Emma whispered, "The lower vault just opened." Rick's heart slammed in his chest. Something ancient, something sealed for centuries was waking up, and it wasn't supposed to. A blinding pulse of light shot upward from the pit, brief but powerful enough to illuminate every face on the site. The crew shielded their eyes as the frost-filled air twisted into spirals, pulled by a sudden draft coming from deep underground. Spooner stumbled backward. "There's airflow coming upward. That chamber wasn't just sealed, it was pressurized." The officers clearly knew something the team didn't. The lead one shouted into his radio, "The vault is breaching. Repeat, the primary seal is compromised. Begin blackout procedures." Rick ignored the chaos, leaning closer to the railing, eyes locked on the glow rising from below. "Rick, get back!" Emma yelled. But Rick didn't move, because he could hear something. Not the metallic groaning, not the shifting rocks. Stone. A faint, rhythmic sound. Almost like a whisper. Deep, echoing, almost chanting. Spooner's face drained of color.
That's impossible. The officers finally snapped. Two of them rushed forward to drag Rick away from the edge, but before they could reach him, boom! A concussive blast of cold air shot out of the pit, knocking everyone to the ground. Frost burst across the mud, covering equipment, boots, and even parts of the scaffolding in a thin sheet of ice. The lights around them flickered and then surged brighter, fed by a strange surge of static electricity. Emma looked at her scanner, now completely blank, the screen filled with white noise. "It fried the system," she whispered. "Whatever just opened generates some kind of energy field." The rumbling below intensified, metal grinding, stone shifting, something activating. The lead officer crawled to his feet, grabbing Rick by the arm. This time he wasn't issuing orders, he was pleading. "You have to clear this area, now." "Tell me what's down there," Rick shouted back. The officer hesitated, then whispered words that froze Rick's blood more than the icy air ever could. "The Templars built vaults to protect their relics, but there was one kind of vault they built to protect the world from what was inside." Rick stared at him, unable to speak. A sudden, thunderous clang echoed up from the depths, a sound like a massive gate slamming open. The ground underneath their feet trembled violently. A spiderweb of cracks split across the frozen surface near the pit. Equipment toppled. The scaffolding groaned. Emma screamed, "The entire chamber is shifting upward!" Spooner grabbed her arm, dragging her back as a large section of soil collapsed inward, revealing a deeper glimpse of the glowing interior. The light wasn't just brighter now. It was forming a shape, rising slowly like a structure emerging from water. A massive, circular seal ringed in metal and stone, etched with symbols, ancient, geometric, unmistakably Templar. But in the center of the seal, something else was embedded. A dark, fist-sized object encased in glass-like crystal, pulsing with light. The officers froze. Emma's voice trembled as she took in the sight. It's not a container. It's a locking mechanism." Spooner stepped forward, breath shaking. "And it's locking." The pulsing object flashed again, faster, brighter. The frost around the pit turned to mist. The chanting grew louder. And for the first time since arriving on Oak Island, Rick felt genuine fear. "Everyone, back, now!" The seal rotated. The light flared, and then a handprint appeared on the crystal from the inside. For a moment, no one moved, no one breathed. The glowing crystal at the center of the ancient seal radiated a soft, rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat, and on its inner surface, unmistakable and horrifying, was the imprint of a hand, pressed from the inside. Emma staggered backward, shaking her head in disbelief. No, that's not possible. Nothing biological could survive that long. Not sealed under rock, not at those temperatures." Spooner's eyes were fixed on the crystal, wide with scientific terror. "Unless it wasn't alive in the way we understand." The lead officer drew a concealed device from his belt, a small, black, rectangular module with no visible buttons. He held it up, aiming it at the pit. His hand was trembling. Rick caught his wrist. "What are you about to do?" "Prevent this from opening," his voice cracked, "for everyone's sake." Before Rick could respond, the crystal pulsed again, brighter, faster. The frost in the air vibrated as if caught in an unseen current. A low, resonant hum flowed outward, shaking the very air around them. The handprint on the crystal moved, fingers sliding slowly, dragging across the inside of the barrier, searching. Rick felt a chill crawl up his spine.
Whispered, "It's conscious." The officers panicked. The lead one slammed the device into the ground and pressed his thumb against the hidden trigger. A loud electronic chime echoed out, and the module began emitting a counter-frequency, a high-pitched tone that made everyone wince. The glow inside the crystal flickered, as if something within was reacting. The handprint pulled away, fading back into the swirling light. Emma gasped, grabbing Rick's sleeve. "It's responding to the frequency." The officer shouted, We still have time. Step back." But the ground answered for them. The seal rotated with a violent jolt. A ring of ancient metal slammed upward like a rising platform.